All right, I think we'll get started with my intro, and then that gives a chance for everyone to join for the rest of the session. So thanks for joining. My name is Didier. I'm part of the HPE developer community, and I'm very glad today to host this July meetup on observability in action. And the session will be delivered by Neil Pearson. And Neil is part of our colleagues from the acquisition of OpsRamp. And I'm pretty sure we're going to have a few more of these sessions with people from OpsRamp in the near future. And before I hand it over to Neil, let me just go through a few housekeeping items here. That will be quick because I just wanted to talk to you about these meetups because we run this every month. We have been started this program in January 22. And we have, in this series, we do kind of an in-depth on a particular technology, open source or not. We had several sessions run by speakers external to HPE from Red Hat, from Google Cloud and others, but also some sessions from people from HPE as well. We also have a different, to be honest, we don't have a session in August, and I'm working on some topics for September, but I don't have anything yet that I can announce. So there isn't a next or an upcoming session that I can advertise today. But anyway, we have this meetup page that my colleague Denis and Fred will probably paste in the chat and the Q&A, so you can get to it. But this is the page where you can find all the upcoming meetups and also the replay on YouTube for each of the past meetups. So if you missed one that you think would be interested, you can always watch the replay from there. We have a second program called the Munch and Learn, and these were actually started earlier back in 21, and monthly program as well, 1 hour. And in this, we kind of do more thought leadership type of sessions, trying to be more vendor and product agnostic, and discuss more like industry trends and things like that. So we had, again, we don't have a session for August, but I'm working on something for September. And you can stay tuned on by looking at this Munch and Learn page. And again, we have all the replays there, and you can download also the slides on both pages when they are available. So that's for the technology talks. We also do other things in the developer part of the program. We have one thing that is probably useful for people who are interested in learning new technology. We call this the workshops on demand. These were created when we had the pandemic and we needed a way to teach people new things through virtual events. And we kept them open since then. We have today 33 workshops in the catalog. They are available 24/7. They are free and they're available to anyone. They are outside on the network. We standardized on Jupyter notebooks for delivering the content. So basically, you're following a session with a notebook and some cell with code that you need to execute in order to do something that you've been instructed to do. So they're quite nice to use. There's only one page that you open. And we've got good feedback on this experience, and we are building some more. We are interested in feedback, of course. Which workshop would you like to see? And you think are missing from the list? You can see, you will see in the catalog, we have lots of open source things there. You can see, for example, Docker 101, Kubernetes 101. Programming in Python, programming in Rust. So these are very kind of open source. And then you'll find also some HPE specific product workshops. So give it a try and provide us with feedback. It's always good to find out what you liked and what you didn't like. Finally, this is a community, so we need people to contribute and amplify whenever possible. So don't hesitate to join again some of our sessions, and don't hesitate to forward and invite other people to join our talks. You can also join our newsletter. We do have a monthly newsletter to keep track of upcoming sessions, replays and new blogs and things like that. So you can join and you can invite others to join. We have a dedicated Slack workspace. So this is in addition to the HPE internal Slack, and we have a lot of very active channels there for discussing developer issues and developer questions on the different products and open source solutions that we have. And you can also join that and engage in a conversation there or answer questions if you can. We have a Twitter account if you're into Twitter. And then if you're an SME in a particular technology, we'd like to hear from you. We are always on the lookout for blog contributors. We publish a lot of blogs on the website, and these represent half of the traffic of the website. So it's been read by our community. So if you'd like to share some expertise that you have, we can help you. We can do the review, technical review, editorial review. And we use an open source content management system. So it's pretty easy to contribute. Open a pull request to us, we'll review that. And within a week, you should have a blog up and running on the website. Reach out to us if you also want to deliver a meetup, participate with us at an event. And finally, we have these workshops on demand, as I said. And if you think that we could build together some additional workshops, then don't hesitate to contact us. We can help you with if you provide the content, we can help you with formatting it for our framework so that it plugs in and then gets provisioned automatically as part of the solution. So these is a summary of all our links. Remember, we have the external Slack. We also have an internal channel on the HP internal Slack. Feel free to join that. It's called Ask HP Dev Community. And then the newsletter, you can send us mail. We have an alias there. We have a Twitter. We still have a Yammer for our partners. And this is the link to the workshops on demand. You can scan that QR code to get all these links at once. With that, I think it's time to get started with Neil and the real interesting content of the session. Thank you very much. It's all yours, Neil.
Oh, well, thank you, Didier. Well, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. And thank you, Didier, for a great introduction. You know, what a program that you have. And it's just a real pleasure for me to be invited on here today to what for many of you may be your first time seeing OpsRamp, and particularly, you know, the topic around observability may be new to many of you. So what I'm actually going to be doing is going through the platform and trying to solve a problem using observability techniques. But I'll go slow because there may be a lot of information in here. So I'll try and take it easy and hopefully give you a good session. So my name's Neil Pearson. I've been in the IT industry now for over 32 years. Going back, back in the data center when I worked at HSBC a long time ago, and now I'm in HPE for just over a month now, and I've a long history in this space, and I'm really excited to be part of this organization. Okay, so I'm just going to go through a couple of slides. I do want to get onto the platform as quickly as I can, but please, if you have any questions as we're going through, please post them to the Q&A or send us a chat. And once I've gone through the session, happy to answer as many of them as we can. Otherwise, we'll look to answer any of them after today's event. Okay. So what I want to do is actually, show you how OpsRamp approaches observability, because we live in a hybrid cloud world now. That's clear. That's that's clear to me, and a lot of the customers I work with moving to the cloud, but a lot of the infrastructure remains on premise. But but they want to realize the benefits of cloud, but within their own environment. So we are seeing a lot of interest around this topic of observability. But as I alluded to just now, this topic may be new to you, right? Some of you may be experts. Maybe you just want to understand a bit about OpsRamp and how we approach this. Now, we I said, a lot of the technology companies that I've worked with in the past, we've developed our own intellectual property, but that has tended to create what we call vendor lock-in. And now with a lot of the open standards that are out there in the market, such as OpenTelemetry, and so on, it really avoids, those type of issues. And that's why it's really appealing for us. And also a lot of the developers that I speak to are really starting to adopt this technology and, want to get the benefits of, all of the telemetry data that is being produced. But we do live in a very, complex, society now. Now, I've been down there in the trenches, in engineering. I know exactly, what is actually going on. But on this side, I work with customers daily now to try and understand and solve some of these complexities that exist, particularly with the move to microservices, Kubernetes, and so on. It is getting more and more complex. So how do we try and determine why problems are occurring before they impact, your customers and your business? So I will just have a few slides before I get into the platform. So I'll be as quick as I can. So one of the questions that often gets asked is, OpsRamp, we know what we do, we know how we do it, but why do we actually exist as a company? So people like myself that have been, around for a long time, really, we do understand this, right? And we feel the pain that you're going through. Despite all the investments made in tooling over the years, we still see a lot of, disconnect, very reactive still. We want to move away from the break fix model to more of a predict and prevent model. With all these different tools, it leads to, escalating costs, risk is introduced, and so on. So, and we still hear again, on a daily basis that we lack visibility into our hybrid environment. So you may have heard the term, the single pane of glass. It's, that term has been bandied around for years now, but it is still a problem that, OpsRamp has been solving for, for at least the last 9 years. So it's there today. And, the amount of changes that are occurring in the environment on a daily basis is frightening, and it can lead to errors. So we need to be getting in front of this. And you've got all this data that's coming in, your metrics, your log data, alerts, distributed traces. How do you make sense of all this data? So this is really why OpsRamp exists today. So the way that we approach this is we have 3 different solutions. So starting with what we call hybrid observability. So as I said, OpsRamp is really focusing on, a hybrid cloud. So whether that's, public cloud environments or all of your infrastructure and applications that's running within your own data centers. And we want to be ingesting all of your telemetry data, so of your metrics, whether they're cloud native or, just or native, applications and infrastructure. So we want to ingest all your metrics. You're going to be generating lots of alerts, okay, and events being, ingested as well. You're going to have lots of log data. Distributed tracing is not new, but in terms of like observability, it's a relatively new, concept. But the concept of, application performance, trying to understand what's going on with inside an application, has been around for a little while. But it's really trying to bring all this data together in context. And what's actually happens is you want to generate some alert data that can then be, ingested into an AI machine learning platform, which OpsRamp has built in. And from there, you're able to generate what we call an inference alert. So an inference is really alerts typically coming in patterns. So say a network switch goes down, and all of the different, hardware and servers that are connected to that network switch are going to start complaining. And that's going to generate lots of logs, syslogs. Events are going to start to be generated. The metrics are going to be producing alerts. So you need a way to understand the patterns that are occurring to basically say, okay, these are all related to the same root cause. And OpsRamp has, had this technology for many years now, and it's really the best that I've seen. And once you've generated, say, an incident, So maybe you have like ServiceNow or other similar ITSM platforms. You want to be able to intelligently automate the remediation of that problem. And this is what we call the discovery to resolution process. So it starts off with hybrid observability, having a complete accurate inventory of all of your infrastructure and applications. So, but that has to be discovered. Okay, this doesn't happen automatically. It does with OpsRamp when you discover your environment, but you've got to keep on top of that, especially for cloud native environments such as Kubernetes, which are frequently changing. You need to keep on top of this, and they're always going to be generating new metrics. So you've got to be constantly, collecting all these different telemetry data. So this is kind of how OpsRamp works. So we offer 3 different solutions, all built around a single AIOps platform. I'm actually just going to quickly just go through some of the capabilities that each of the different solution areas provide. So OpsRamp has the ability to monitor and discover your environment either with an agent, okay, or in an agentless mode. So we typically would discover environments using, say, SSH, WMI, SNMP, or other APIs to basically, see what resources are in your environment, and then we would create those within the platform. It comes with dashboards, as you would expect. So I will show you that in a second. A lot of the time that I work on demonstrations and proof of concepts, we want to create that single pane of glass dashboard. So that's what I'm going to get to in a second. And it comes with different monitoring templates out of the box. There are literally hundreds and hundreds supporting all the different types of infrastructure we support. And all these are deployed automatically when you discover your environment. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but you'll see the slides, but it's really a very, very comprehensive set of solutions that when applied in correctly, it really will deliver value for you. So just moving on. This is just a quick example of some of the integrations. Literally, there are thousands of integrations. The typical ones that we show are, the public cloud, your ITSM platforms, your network infrastructure. We support pretty much everything that's out there. And that's really a big part of our value is in the integration. So a typical journey to observability really is applying, those 3 different solutions. So you're going to have hopefully some kind of initiative, right? Whether that's, modernization of your cloud, you're going through digital transformation, maybe you're improving all of your IT service management processes, or you're looking to, say, consolidate or various tools that you have in your environment. So there's going to be some kind of initiative that would make sense to go down this path. And it starts off with the hybrid observability. So you're going to get a lot of value from that, but that will start to generate events and incidents that we can leverage AI to detect and resolve these issues much faster. Then you can apply what we call this intelligent automation to basically auto remediate those issues. And that hopefully, you start where you are now, define your target state, and then we can apply these different solutions in order to achieve your outcomes. Okay, so I'm just going to pause there and go straight into the platform, because this is really what I wanted to get to. Now, I'll probably post this afterwards as well, but a really good place to start if you're not too familiar with observability is on the OpenTelemetry.io webpage. I'm not going to go through all of this, but have a look at this. It really is some really good information to understand what observability is. Now, in my opinion, it's really trying to understand why problems are occurring. Traditional monitoring is really good at telling you what happened and when, but it doesn't necessarily answer the question, why did that problem occur? Now, we have these signals, okay? So the metrics are good, right? But they don't really tell you what's going on with the application code. So this is where distributed traces come in, because you can see at the code level what is actually going on with each request, right, within a transaction. And this is just, unprecedented level of detail that you can get here. Logs are amazing. Okay, but again, they don't go far enough on some occasions. In certain use cases, they do. It is enough to troubleshoot the issue, to answer why the problem occurred. And I'll give you an example of that in a second. But please come on here, because the demonstration that I go through is all based on the OpenTelemetry demonstration product called the Astronomy Shop. So again, what this is a series of microservices, and that are all, developed in different programming languages, but they're all talking to each other over remote procedural calls or HTTP API calls. And they're all generating telemetry data, whether that's metrics, logs, and traces. It's really what you do with this, which is the differentiator. Now, one of the challenges, as I mentioned, is there's just too many different tools. So even with this demonstration environment, it comes with about 4 different UIs to try and troubleshoot an issue. So you have like Grafana here, you have Jaeger, you have Loki, you have all kinds of other UIs, but none of them are connected to one another. So this is really where OpsRamp comes into its own. So in the platform, we start off with the hybrid observability. Okay, so if this is the first time you're seeing OpsRamp, I'll just give a quick, explainer overview. So the first thing you need to do is, set up what we call a gateway. Now that is a appliance, a lightweight appliance that basically sets up a secure tunnel to the OpsRamp cloud, because OpsRamp is a SaaS-based solution. But we do allow OpsRamp to be run in a disconnected mode within your own environment, if that is a requirement. But typically, most of our clients, use the OpsRamp cloud platform. And the first thing you would do is you set up a gateway, and then that allows to create what we call discovery profiles. And from there, you say, okay, if it's a Windows environment you want to discover, you'll set up the profile for going over WMI. And then it will give it an IP address range. Then it will go and discover that environment. Same for network devices. You connect to an SNMP community string, and then you'll be able to, discover all those devices. So that's really the first step involved in the process, is getting that accurate inventory, like you can see here. So this is just the OpsRamp view. Let me just change this. So here we have just some public cloud providers, some container platforms, some servers, some switch devices, and some other types of infrastructure as well. So this just gives you a flavor of what the infrastructure inventory looks like. But again, this is very, very simple environment. It's just our demo system. But this will be able to discover everything that you have, and this is where you would effectively manage that infrastructure. And once you've done that, you would basically go through setting up some policies. So everything OpsRamp is automated with policies. Now, the first thing we typically advise is setting up what's called a device management policy. Now, what this does, it allows you to say, hey, when a device of a certain type, or maybe you have like naming conventions set up, if it meets the criteria for that type of device, then carry out these actions. So in this case, it's going to automatically deploy the monitoring for this type of Linux device. And it's going to assign some credentials, right, for that device in case you need to remotely connect to it. Now, just reminded me that one thing I've not pointed out yet is that OpsRamp is what's called a multi-tenant platform. It's actually one of the key differentiators for us, is the ability to basically create different what we call clients within OpsRamp. So we have a partner level concept, which is, if say if you're a service provider or you're managing a shared services organization, you'd set up what's called a partner within OpsRamp, that then you can decide, okay, we want to provide a shared observability service for all of my internal business units, or if you're a service provider, all of your different customers, and then you can manage everything that way. So everything is completely secure from one another. Clients can't see each other clients' data, and so on. And everything is role-based access controlled. But we should probably do a another OpsRamp 101 session to go through, some of these capabilities in more detail. But I want to get to the nuts and bolts of observability here. So let's do that. So we've gone through the monitoring, we've set up the monitoring. When you install an OpsRamp agent, okay, so there are a couple of things you would do here. You'd install an OpsRamp agent and you automatically get the logs are turned on. Okay, so imagine we've got metrics being ingested. We now want to turn our attention to logs. So let's start to ingest logs. And all you do is install the OpsRamp agent on many occasions. So here's just some of the different types of systems that we support for logs. So for Linux, it's just a case of installing the OpsRamp agent, and all of the logs like the syslog, the messages, file, the journal D, it's all done automatically. You don't have to do anything else. Okay. It really is that simple. For some cloud providers like Azure, there's a few more steps involved because there's some configuration work that needs to be done. But for the most part, it's simply a case of installing OpsRamp, and we will start to ingest the logs depending on the type of environment you want to monitor. We do have the ability to create custom log files. So for here, for example, it's just giving you some advice. So for Linux or Windows, you just need to do something like this. If I go on to here, sorry, this one. Let me just move this out of the way. So we are live. So let me just do this. So here's an example OpsRamp YAML file with a custom log file. Here's just a web server log, for Oracle. And this is actually a real example that I've worked on recently. And all you do is you specify the log file you want to include, how the start of the log entry, is there. So it's saying the start of the pattern is this regular expression. So you have the option for logs to either use JSON format or regular expressions. So in this example, I'm using a regular expression to basically say, okay, I've figured out that the log file here, this is the format. So we have the time date, okay, the timestamp. Then there's the level. This in that case is either notice or information or warning. Then the source of the log, then an ID code, right, and then the actual log message itself. So this is an example where you would probably should use something like this tool here, but there are others to basically group those different attributes like this, because OpsRamp needs to understand, okay, what part of the log is a timestamp and so on. Now all these are then sent into OpsRamp as attributes that then you can create queries on. So you just install that and start the OpsRamp agent, then it will start to ingest your custom log files. It really is that simple. So that's logs. Moving on to traces now. So if I just come out of here. Now in this example application, it's using the OpenTelemetry collector. Okay, so if you want to learn more about that, you can just go on here, and it describes the OpenTelemetry collector really well. But essentially what it is, it's just a piece of software that is, once you have instrumented your application, it's a way to basically receive that tracing data, but it could be logs or metrics as well. And that data then can be exported to various front ends. So OpsRamp is one of those. So in this example application, which you can install by yourself, and this will form one of the workshop on demands that Didier mentioned earlier on, is we'll set this up. You'll be able to do it yourself, and you'll be able to get some exposure to the OpenTelemetry collector and how OpsRamp is working. So all I do here is I go into the OTel collector. This is in the source directory, and I'm just going to edit the config YAML file like so. And the first thing you want to do is go down to this line here where it says exporters. We add a new entry for OpsRamp, and this is actually the IP address of the OpsRamp tracing service that we set up, that's listening on this port here. And that's all you have to do, is just specify, you know, that information, the endpoint name. It's using a secure tunnel, so it's using TLS to basically send that data in encrypted environment. And it's really two steps. It's really to, you know, document the exporter, and then down in the service pipelines, add in that name there. So it's really very, very simple. You just save that, and then you would start up the in this case, this is running a Docker container, and then it will then start to send that tracing data to OpsRamp. Okay, so very, very simple. And so you can see here the traces. Okay, so these are all the different services that that we are currently ingesting, and you have the ability here to, you know, configure them. So if this is the first time that you're setting up the traces within the platform, you've got the choice of either, you know, are you running your application in Kubernetes, right? Or is it running on the host? So this is just the proxy service that you set up. It's connected securely to the OpsRamp cloud. And there's just a simple thing, as I just showed you a second ago, to basically send where you're going to send the traces to. Okay, so you've got the choice of either using remote procedural calls or HTTP. Okay, and you just have to do, you know, that simple thing there, and that is it. So, and assuming that you've instrumented your application, right, you're starting to generate traces, and then they would immediately be ingested into the OpsRamp platform, like you can see here. Okay, so that's really the metrics, logs, and traces. So I didn't cover sort of cloud native metrics. So I really started off early the session on the OpsRamp metrics. And we also have the ability to integrate with, say, Prometheus. So if you're using that within your environment, we can add a Prometheus metrics integration. For example, here, again, it's just a little bit of software that runs, and you just basically set up Prometheus to send OpsRamp, you know, the metric data. So if I show you here, if I come back into the Prometheus config. So, okay, so I'll just show you this example. So the first thing I do is I just specify a label for the integration. Okay, so again, it's just this statement here. You specify the name of the OpsRamp Prometheus integration. It just has to be the same label. And what we're actually doing is a remote write. So it's pushing the metric data to this endpoint here. Okay, so this is the IP address where the OpsRamp Prometheus agent is running. Okay, and this is the port number you need to specify. And assuming you've just done that, you will start to ingest metrics. And if I can just show you an example of those, I'll just come down here first of all. So here's an example of an OpsRamp dashboard. That's like so. And this widget here is looking at service latency. So if I just edit this, you can see here, if you're familiar with Prometheus, you may be experienced with using the Prometheus query language. So this is all built into OpsRamp. So for example, if you're using Grafana, or if you've used this before, again, it's just the same query. So you can just copy these straight into OpsRamp if you choose to. So that is just running a, it's looking at the top services and the latency of them over the last hour. Okay, and again, it's just visual representation of those metrics. So you can visualize anything that is coming into the platform. So just moving back upwards here. So hopefully that's given you a bit of an overview of the metrics, logs, and traces. I'll start to get to solving a problem in a second, but I just wanted to explain, you started to generate some alerts, but maybe you're getting a lot of alerts, and maybe that's generating too much noise in your environment, and you need to prevent, you want to reduce the number of escalations as incidents. So in this example, metrics are being turned into alerts. Okay, so it's gone above thresholds. In the log events, logs can have events as well, and traces can also generate alerts. So you're getting all these alerts coming into the platform, but there are patterns that are emerging, right? So OpsRamp will learn the sequences, and depending on how well the discovery has done, you may have got some topology maps. So again, this is just a feature of the platform here called topology maps. And what it does, the algorithm actually is reinforcing the data and all the dependencies in the topology of that application. So basically what it's saying is, okay, if all these resources are related to one another, it will give you better results, okay, and avoid any false positives. And what you get is a correlation at the end of it. And they look like this in the platform. So this is our machine learning algorithm that's basically detected all of these different sequences of alerts, and you can actually challenge the platform to say, okay, I disagree with you there, okay, even though I've not come across an instance where I've seen any such issues like that, but you can unlearn these, okay, in the platform, or you can add your own manually using the UI. Okay, so that's a very, very brief overview of our AI-driven event and incident management. But at the end of the day, what we want to do is avoid escalations, but only escalate as incidents if required. And what we would do then is to apply our automation capabilities to try and either diagnose the issue using scripts. So OpsRamp supports like Bash, Python, and PowerShell, as well as configuration automation tools such as Ansible. And we do that with our built-in workflow engine. So it's a business process modeler tool. And again, it's very, very simple drag and drop interface. And all you do is, this is a very, very simple example, is you have a start and end, and maybe you just want to run a script, okay? And you would just give it a name. And on the right here, you see a library of automations that you've added to the platform, and you just execute that script when either an incident occurs or an alert occurs, or when a new resource is created or updated in the platform. So that's really the three sort of solution areas, and you put it all together into this single pane of glass. Okay, so what I'm showing you on here is just a series of widgets that come with the platform. So it's all the value that you get out of this is dependent on the quality of the data that you're ingesting. So that's why it's done in phases, that journey to observability, starting with the discovery, the monitoring, ingesting your metrics, your logs, your traces, then starting to turn on the AI event management and incident management, then applying the auto remediation. But there are different roles. So if you're a developer or an engineer, you probably have your own workstation, right, where you're going to carry out your daily activities. So this is actually giving a view of the actual application and all the different IT services that are part of that system. Here you can have embed a document. So this is just showing me around a shift report. You have different tiles for showing various metrics. So this is just telling me all about the number of resources I'm managing in the environment, all the way through to if there are any active incidents, any risks that have been prevented. So this is what I mean by automation, is we want to prevent issues from occurring in the first place. And you can display all of your metrics in a single view. And you can just embed another OpsRamp console to create this single view that is totally customized to you. So what I actually want to do is, I had a little problem. So what I'm showing you here is a development environment, which is running in one OpsRamp client. Remember I said this is multi-tenancy, and I have my production environment in another client. So what I'm actually gone through, I'm saying in the shift report, is that there's an upgrade that's happening to the development environment between 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. today. So that's within the last sort of 40 minutes, this has been going on. And you really want to, I said, observability is all about trying to answer why problems are occurring. So we are giving you the tools to do that. So here, an upgrade has occurred. Production is fine, but because it said that the upgrade was going on in the development. So you want to have a side-by-side view of your telemetry data. So that could be your metrics. You want to look at for both environments, your logs or your traces. Okay, so here it's actually generated some log error messages. So it's telling me this here, that there's been an error 13 internal. It's failed to prepare an order, and it's failed to get this product name here. So that's really useful information, but it doesn't really tell me, this is telling me something occurred at this time, but doesn't tell me why it happened. Okay. So this is where you really want to look inside the application itself. So assuming that you've instrumented your application, like we've been through here, you're starting to generate, your trace data. How can you then, troubleshoot this issue by reviewing that trace data? So let's look over onto the traces view. So I'll compare them side by side. And here I'm actually wanting to look for some errors. So in the logs, it told me some information that there's an error 13 internal. Okay. So in production, there are actually, if I just change the client over, there are no errors. As you can see here, there are no traces. But in the development environment, it's telling me that there are lots of different traces that are having an error. So let's just take a look at one of them. The first one on the list there. And this is basically showing you the actual request itself. So a user went onto this platform, tried to, add something to a cart. And this is the different, calls that are being made as part of that request. Now I can see here a couple of them, I've got an error. It's actually looking at, you can actually see all of this level of detail that the OpenTelemetry is actually, obtaining. So this is where you need to be spending time. So I'm looking at everything in red is an error, and it's telling me, oh, okay, there's that product ID, okay, that the logs were telling me. And if I just look at the actual main request, it's telling me that the feature flag is enabled. Now, this is the answer to the why question. Okay, so logs told me, some detail, but not enough, right, to answer that. But the traces is actually telling me why this problem is occurring. Okay, and this is really what we want to get to. So if you're a developer and you're looking at OpenTelemetry, right, as a way to understand what's going on with inside your application and all the different calls that are being made, whether it's your database, your middleware, and so on, this is where you can answer these questions. And this is really the value here, is getting to this stage. Now, again, with OpsRamp, it's very, very simple. I hope you'll agree. It's just a few things you need to set up. Okay, so if you didn't have metrics, coming into the platform, and you didn't have logs, you could just do everything with just the tracing. Okay, to answer these questions. And again, you can generate alerts from these, and then that could then your incident response workflow could then kick in that OpsRamp automates. So which could be just to send you a notification, an SMS, right? Or you can apply an auto remediation to this issue. So typically the first time an issue like this occurs, you would not know that. So like OpsRamp has a Slack integration. So if you're using that as your collaboration tool, here you discuss that issue and then come up with a remediation. You could just then go into the OpsRamp platform. This is just an example of our integration with Slack, straight into the platform to create a new remediation workflow. And then you could put in place, that fix. Okay, so again, there's it's really trying to understand your workflow today and where you want to take it, and how could we help you improve that. So that's really, in a nutshell. I know I've been speaking nonstop for about 40 minutes. I just probably want to stop there and see if we can open it up for some questions. Let's take a look. Okay.
A few questions in the Q&A, Neil, if you can take a look.
Yes. Okay, can OpsRamp be used internally as standalone service with no integration with GreenLake? Yes, is the answer to that. It's both. OpsRamp is part of GreenLake, as far as I'm aware. Yes, it is. But OpsRamp could obviously be deployed as a standalone offering as well. Is OpsRamp an ITSM tool or milieu monitoring? It's all of those things. So OpsRamp in itself can be used as an ITSM tool. Okay, so we do have customers that use it that way, but typically we would integrate with customers' ITSM platforms such as Remedy, ServiceNow, Cherwell, and so on. But the integration is done is bi-directional. So OpsRamp creates an incident inside the platform. It will then generate the incident in ServiceNow or whatever is being used, and we will manage the life cycle of that incident. So hopefully that answers the question. So let me just come down the list. There's quite a few here. Thank you everybody for posting on your questions on here. Got one from Peter. Does OpsRamp use reinforcement learning? So as I showed, if I just go back up to this graphic, so it's reinforced by topology and similarity. So the actual algorithms are continuously learning. So you set up the alert correlation policy, as we call it, and then you just turn on continuous learning. But there's also a flag. I'll give you an example here, where you say, there it is here, look, continuous learning on, and do want to reinforce by topology, and you just turn that on. So that's yes to that answer that's a long way of saying yes. So thank you, Peter, for that one. Okay, let me just go down here. I got one from Subhajit. Can telemetry data be queried from OpsRamp, specifically metrics? Yes, is the answer to that. So again, another example here. So again, this is just that simple one. So this is actually a query. Okay, so it's a Prometheus query. And this is just metric data coming into the platform. You can add multiple queries in the same view if you wish. But again, it's you just query the metric data, right, using either PromQL or the built-in OpsRamp query language. So thank you for that one. Okay, let me just see if I can. When OpsRamp is run as an appliance at the edge, how often does it need to report into the cloud. When you're saying appliance, I think you're talking about the OpsRamp gateway. So there is a it's constantly checking in with the OpsRamp cloud to say, am I live? But even if there is a outage from a service provider, right, to the network, to the OpsRamp cloud, if that edge appliance is, then all of the alerts, you're not going to lose anything. Okay, so they're all stacked up, and as soon as that connectivity is reestablished, you'll get those alerts coming in and that metric data. So you're not really going to lose any information. Can OpsRamp be used by HPE employees today to begin integration? Yes, we have some internal demo platforms. All I need is just send me your login, your email address if you're a HP employee, and I will add you to the HP lab environment, and then you can start to have a play with the system. So just send me your details. From Bascart, do you correlate and analyze from various components at the same time? So yes, so particularly from for alerts. So I said one of the options you have is to analyze alert data by by its timestamp. So within, say, the last few minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and you have the flexibility to set up the correlation profiles that way. Okay, so it could be, you just say, okay, regardless of what type of infrastructure it is, maybe it's from a particular location or a site or a availability zone. If it's public cloud, you can just specify, the time stamp when, these alerts are occurring, and you can correlate them that way. But typically we would like to turn on the machine learning. But there are lots of questions. Can OpsRamp be used for syslog, log monitoring tools, and CIS compliance monitoring tools as well? So obviously, as I showed, we are ingesting the syslog and any log file that you choose to ingest into the platform. And what we typically do is we would look at the raw data for between 7 and 30 days. And then that data can be archived into, say, an AWS S3 bucket that then could be used for, compliance purposes if you need to look back at that historical data. Okay, so we've got a few more minutes. I've just got a couple more questions here. Do you have experience with transforming to OpsRamp from existing solutions? So yes. We have years of experience, transforming, moving from customers, existing tooling. So one of the, most common challenges around tool consolidation, right? So if for example, your customers moving, modernizing their cloud or going through digital transformation, and they have greenfield environments, maybe that's a good time to look at your current state and where you want to go from, to achieve your target goals. We would come in and probably work with you on some workshops to define your monitoring strategy and observability strategy. And we would, work with you to define how you get from your current state to target state, and, obviously achieve, return on investment and the business case and everything like that. Brad has added one here. Apologies that you asked this one a while ago, but are you working with in the observability space as other APM tools like Dynatrace, New Relic? To a degree, yes. Currently, we're not a pure play APM solution. So if it's a brand like a cloud native environment where OpenTelemetry, for example, is the standard that is being deployed as part of an observability initiative, then we can obviously ingest the metrics, the logs, the traces, right, that way. But there may be some use cases where OpsRamp, doesn't have that capability. So we would look to integrate. So we integrate with all of the leading APM, vendors out there, such as Dynatrace, New Relic, AppDynamics. But for some use cases, we do have the equivalent capabilities. So underneath, Gaurav has asked, underneath, is OpsRamp using multiple of these solutions and integrating them in manner to achieve fully supported solution underneath services like Prometheus, Loki, Jaeger, Nagios, Grafana? So it's really looking at the data source. So Prometheus is the data source, right? So Grafana is really the front end for Prometheus at the end of the day. So again, Jaeger is the front end for traces, right? That typically, you hear about. But as I said, look, for example, here, Grafana, Jaeger, they're all disconnected from one another. You need all of your data in one place in order to make sense of that. To really, to get the value. Like Loki, again, it's a point solution, very good, no doubt. But again, it's isolated. You need all of this telemetry data in context, and this is really the direction of the market for observability is really having all this information in context. So you can't achieve that if that data is all being sent to different UIs. So hopefully I've answered that one. Okay, I think we've got a couple more minutes for a few more. We will respond to as many of these as we can post this session, but I see you're sharing, we've got an anonymous attendee. I see you're showing the Elasticsearch in the telemetry. Should a customer buy Elasticsearch license or is it built into your pricing? So logs, basically, you get a certain amount of logs as part of a OpsRamp license, as part of the resource license. And once you go above a limit, then you will get charged the extra for that. But it's all part of the single license fee for the most part, which should be enough in my opinion. So Elasticsearch is an integration, but again, it's like a lot of these. It's a point solution, very good one. It's good at what it does. Like same example would be Splunk. Okay, yeah, we can send you log data there. But again, the key here is, I can't stress enough, is you just got too many tools in the environment. They may be very good and they add in value, but the key thing for observability is what we're talking about today is you've got to have all that data in context. Okay, so it's no good having log data in one tool, tracing in another, metrics in another, right, alerts in another. Okay, I will endeavor to answer as many of these questions as I can after today, but I just wanted to thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. Obviously you do have a choice, how to spend your time, and I hope you found it interesting. It's been great for me to have the opportunity to showcase you in just a small amount of time what OpsRamp is about, but clearly an hour is not enough to really explain to you. But if you wanted to contact us directly and to have a one-on-one session, they're perfectly fine, and we can do a personalized session for you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Neil. I think it was indeed a great session. I don't think we ever had that many questions. I will keep track of the Q&A and the chat. I know people have asked for joining your demo lab or something, so I'll provide you with these emails. And also I've brought up the end of session poll. If you can spend just a few seconds to answer those 3 easy questions, that would be helpful for us. I think, Neil, you did a great job, so thanks a lot. We will have some more sessions on OpsRamp technology in the near future, I'm very sure. So with that, thank you everyone for joining. I'll leave that open for another 20 seconds and I'll stop the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Didier. Thank you, everyone. Look out for the workshop on demand where you'll be able to do this yourself. So that's coming very soon.
Yeah, good point. Thank you, Neil. Thanks. Bye-bye, everyone.